Hello there, welcome to Learn with Optmyzr. Today we're going to talk about a topic that every PPC advertiser needs to deal with at some point, reporting. So we know that reports can help us prove ROI to our clients and to our stakeholders. But what we sometimes forget is that good reporting can also help us spot opportunities in the account, identify problems early, and also make smarter decisions. So what I'll show you today is a few workflows and tips on how to use Optmyzr reporting tools and templates to help you tell the right story to your clients. Now, based on that, let's work with this hypothetical scenario. You have a B2B lead gen client. Leads are coming in, great news. But your client usually asks you, how are we doing compared to last month? Better or worse? Are the clients, the leads that we're getting good? Are they valuable? And does it make sense to invest more, to increase budgets or not? Those are questions that it makes sense that they're asking them. But what doesn't make sense is that you have to go in and dig through the data every time, every month, right? So what you actually want is a good, reliable report that can help you get to the answers fast. And that's what we'll build today. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to head over to Optmyzr, of course, and reports, create and edit reports. For the first use case that we want to explore is how to build a report that helps us show how we are doing, how a monthly report with what's working. And we want to keep it short and easy to read. So for that, the account summary with 30 days of data is a great one to get started with, right? You can just create it from here, from the menu, and get started that way. But if you're already in the reports templates page, you can just use a pre-built template and you have the executive summary right here as well. We want to use this one, account executive summary with conversions. All right, so what you're going to get with that pre-built template is a nice consolidated report with general performance data that you probably want to customize a little bit before sending it to your client. Let's see first what the report contains. So we have a PPC investigator chart. We have performance segmented by device and network, weekly performance trends, and this is all great. But what happens if your client, for example, is not interested in seeing quality score? We probably want to include a little bit more information or other metrics to our key performance metrics widget. So how do we do all of that? Easy. We go to customize this report. We give a name to our report. I'm just going to call it monthly. And this will take us now to the report designer. Before we get started and we start customizing this, I think it's important to understand, get familiarized with the reports designer interface, which is pretty straightforward. We have three panels, 1, 2, and 3. The left one is where you can change the theme color. You can add widgets one by one or in bulk. These are essentially different pages and different ways to present data in your report. You can add custom metrics, campaign selectors, and date ranges. By default, the reports will report on all campaigns, on the aggregate performance for all campaigns in the account. But if you just want to report on a specific campaign or group of campaigns, you can include a second selector for that. Same thing with date ranges, because we're working with a monthly data report, a pre-built template with just monthly data. We just have last month and month before last. But if in any of the widgets you also want to include last month, last year, you can go ahead and do that and add that. And now that'll be available whenever you are editing the report. The other thing that you'll find on the left panel is the outline, from where you can easily navigate through the report, select the different widgets, and you can also drag and drop them in case you want to reorganize the report a little bit, which is pretty cool. But let's start with the key performance metrics widget. Here, there's a great place to start. We just have the overall performance data for the account based on last month. So now we select that widget, and now we go to the right panel where we can tweak the settings for the data that widget will show us. And not just that, but we can also decide what data comes in. If we want to just report on a specific network of device, we have that option. And in some cases, you'll also find this to customize how the widget looks. But if we want to, let's say, change the date range or the campaigns the widget is reporting on, you'll have to select widget data, and then you'll see the different drop downs to do just that. Let's say here that we want to include some additional metrics to this. For example, we want to include ROAS and search impression share. Perfect. We've added those columns to the widget. To see them, you need to apply the changes. One other thing I could do with this widget, because it's already comparing data, so it's already helping us answer that question on how the account is performing compared to the past. But if we want to see how much it's really changed, we can include the numeric change in here, and again, apply the changes. So now that's a little bit more complete. Remember I told you that maybe your client is not interested in seeing the quality score? So let's just go ahead and remove that. Now we're left with this performance comparison table, which is also pretty nice because you'll see how the account performed in April compared to May and the exact change. So it's basically a little breakdown of what we're seeing on top. So those two widgets go really well together and help us start telling the right story to our client. Remember, just like with the previous widget, you can just change the main settings here on the right. One of my favorite widgets in this case is the PPC investigator because it helps us answer why the performance changed compared to the previous period. And that's an analysis that we can do for even a specific metric. In this case, it's done by conversions. But what if we want to talk to our client about changes in cost per conversion? So let's see, we have it right here. We apply the changes, we'll get a new cost chart. And a really cool one, because if you think about it, this account is doing very well. Cost per conversion is decreasing. You're paying less per leads. You're getting more conversions. The overall traffic has dropped, and that would be a cost per concern. But again, we're getting more leads. So the traffic we're getting is much more relevant now. Now, with that, we have something really cool to tell our client. And below, we can see that whatever we did last month has helped us recover impression share due to ad rank. So great news altogether. Something that we probably want to add right below the PPC investigator is this really cool PPC narrator. The PPC narrator is an AI generated widget that shows you a little summary of what happened in the account. So you're gonna specify here the sentiment of the information it's gonna display, that it's gonna tell you. You can make it positive or critical, and you can also specify if you want to generate it with AI and even provide some additional instructions. I'm not going to change this because I think these instructions are good enough for the purpose of my report. So I'm gonna apply the changes and show you how the AI analysis just complements really well whatever we've added on top. This is great, and this is already a time saver because even if you don't get the chance to present this report to your client, let's say on a meeting, you're already telling the story here. You don't have to spend too much time explaining it. It's just that easy to read and understand what's going on. Speaking of which, and now that we're on the AI topic, something that you probably want to add as well is this chart, this metric trend chart, which not only allows you to compare two different metrics on a line chart, but it also helps you do a multi-date range comparison. So right now we are doing last month, but if we want to include one line for last month and another one for previous period, we can do that. And maybe it's not impressions, what we want to compare, but maybe conversions. There we go. Perfect. So now I think we have a really good summary of what last month's performance was, right? What happens if we want to include a table with, let's say, all of the weekly performance, so your client can see the full breakdown? There is a widget right here, performance by time period, that we can break down by week, and your client can see how things went per week last month. And this is great. For example, if there was a specific campaign or a promotion running on, I don't know, the third week of the month, they'll see it right here. They'll know exactly how things went. Cool. So that's one use case. Another use case is probably including in your report how valuable the traffic that you're getting is, or what kind of topics are driving traffic to your account, or how your keywords are performing. What is it that is driving leads in the account? In that case, we can go back to add widgets, tables, and top performers. The top performers widget is great because you can show top performing keywords. If you are running call ads, you can also include that. Top performing campaigns, URLs, and placements. In fact, let's do something. Let's start with keywords. This by default sorts keywords by cost. But if we want to sort it by conversion value, we can do that. Now let's show a smaller table, just our top 5. If you also want to add something similar, but for URLs, you can just copy the widget like I did and change the top performers to URLs. Now you get this nice view. Let's sort that by conversion value as well and apply the changes. And now your client knows exactly what's driving traffic. You probably noticed how I clicked there, the add widget here. Let me show you how that works as well. Because in here, we'll find in the data insights, search terms analysis widget, which shows you this really nice word cloud that can help you also explain to your client, hey, this is the kind of search term or the kind of combinations. If you increase the n-grams to include more combinations, the kind of topics or search terms that are driving traffic to your campaigns. And these, the bigger ones, are the ones that tend to get us more conversions. If you want to break down that information on a table below, you can include that. And that's also a pretty interesting widget to include if your client is interested in that kind of information. If your client is the kind of client that also wants to see the traffic you're getting by regions or cities or countries, you can include a geo heat map. It's a really nice view that will show you just a geographic report segmented by the location type that you decide, and report on the metric that you specify. So from what region are we getting more conversions? There we go. Right. You can also zoom in a little bit, and that's how the map will look like. See how we've just spent a few minutes and we already have a really nice report that, in my opinion, is ready to be sent to your client. You can already have a meeting and present this, and it will be a great meeting shortly. But there's another question that we mentioned at the beginning. Does it make sense to invest a little bit more in my campaigns? How can the report help us answer that? Well, we are already seeing good results in this account. But if we want to show our client how the investment has been going, or maybe some projections on spend, we also have a widget for that. That is called the spend projection widget. You may have seen this as a separate tool under the insights section in Optmyzr, which can also be included here as a report widget, something that I personally really like. What you can do with this widget is something really interesting. So this is considering all budgets in the account. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can of course change that if you want. If you want to display just do the projection for a particular budget. But now this is just showing us the last month's trend. It's not really a projection yet. But if you want to show your client the projection for this month, so you can start having a conversation there about budgets and investment, you can update the date range selector for that. And one more thing that I would recommend doing is setting a custom target. So that target is essentially just a way for your client to see that, for instance, if your budget is just $4,000, hey, this account has potential to spend a lot more, or we're probably going to go over budget. This kind of widget, in my opinion, goes really well with the PPC investigator again, especially in this scenario where, if you notice, we have the PPC investigator, we have the spend projection, and the PPC investigator below is telling us that we're losing impression share due to budget. So now with this, you could prepare an entire argument around, hey, we're see how well we're performing, we're getting a bunch of conversions. Last month we already decreased the cost per lead, so we should have a little bit more room to play with. We can increase our budgets, get a little bit more traffic, get you some more nice conversions, if it weren't for the traffic that we're losing to budget restrictions, right? So now that will hopefully help you convince your client to increase the campaign's budgets. In my opinion, this report is ready. But before I show you how to send it, let me show you one more trick. What happens if your client has multiple accounts? Maybe that's also something that you want to account for, right? And you don't want to build separate reports for each of your clients' accounts. Let's say that your clients' accounts are split by city. So it's a franchise, they have an account for different regions, different cities, etc. You can leverage multi-account reports for that purpose. And that one in particular is also a huge, huge time saver. Little trick, you can create a multi-account template from scratch from here, or if you want, you can duplicate the report that we just built as a multi-account template. And what happens now is that you get an entirely new selection of widgets that you can include in here. So if I go here to add a widget, you'll see how I now have widgets for different platforms instead of just Google Ads or Microsoft Ads. I can even include data for Amazon and Facebook in here. But the nicest part is that under the multi-account widgets, I could include a multi-account summary, KPI widget, and select multiple accounts and aggregate their performance in just one report. So for example, if I click here, use different campaign, I could do something like this and include this demo HQ account. And now I'm aggregating performance data for those two. Not just that, but you can also combine and aggregate data from multiple platforms. So if I have let's say a Facebook account here, I could add that and combine performance, aggregate performance for both of them. So there you go. One nice tip in case you need to build a report for an entire portfolio. Our reports are ready. We built a couple of really cool client-facing reports, and it would be a shame to keep them to ourselves for no one to see them. So the next step is to actually go ahead and send them or to scale them. So our clients gets the report on their inbox. How do we do that? Also super easy. Let's click here, the three buttons under actions, and view and scale the report. This will load a preview so you can check the report out one last time before sending it. And once you've done that, just go to the report actions button and you have different options there, right? So you can scale the report, specify the language settings because you want to send the report on a different language. The frequency, I want to send this monthly, maybe on the 5th of the month instead of the 1st of the month. So we account for any conversion delays and all of that. We can also skip the weekends. We don't want to annoy our client in the middle of a Saturday. We specify the report name, the recipients, subject, and body of our email, which, by the way, the AI can also help you write it down. If you want, and if you're using Slack, actually you can connect Slack and have the report sent to Slack. And there are a couple of methods or formats for you to send the report. There's an interactive link, which I personally really like because your client will not receive an attachment. They will receive a link to see the report in their browsers. Okay, now the other cool thing about this is that if you want to make it a static link, it will include previous reports. So it's not just sending last month's report, but it will also include previous month's reports for your client to navigate through them if they want. And below, you have a safety option to avoid sending the report if, I don't know, there are no conversions, for example. Once the scale is ready, you click create. If you don't want to scale it and you want to send it manually, you can also do that. As you can see, you have the other options available in here. You can generate that report link I mentioned. By the way, that interactive link, I forgot to mention that, but if you send it, what's really nice is that unlike with PDFs, your client will be able to interact with the GeoHeat map just like I'm doing now, which makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more attractive than just a plain PDF. Well, there you have it. Just like that, we built that a couple of really cool reports. And again, thank you for watching and can't wait to see you on the next Learn with Optmyzr session.